when Earth's last war begins, the Bible prophecy moment will be clear to all students of Revelation. It will be Jesus is seen on white horses coming down in the sky, and those who've studied their Revelation, they know that's it. That's the moment. You don't have to worry about what hour is it going to be or what day it's going to be. When your eyes look up, it's going to be very, very noisy. I've pictured this for many years visually with no sound. But in many of the verses, it says it is going to be noisy. You won't be able to be inside your house watching TV, right? And all this noise and lightning, thundering is going on outside, and you won't be able to go, oh, I don't know, it's the neighbors firing off fire rockets or crackers or something, right? So you go to the window and look outside, and there will be all these horses in the sky, right? So the prophecy moment will be clear to anybody who knows their book of Revelation. Jesus will have appeared in the sky and stopped humans from destroying the planet. Jesus appears in the sky 3.5 years after the nation of Israel is destroyed. And you don't hear anything in the news, and I haven't heard anything in Christian radio that I used to listen to a lot before I got Fox News, right, which is not really very pleasant anymore. But anyhow, almost nobody ever talked about the total destruction of the modern nation of Israel. It's like, and if you ask some Baptist ministers, they'll say, no, God's going to protect Israel. It's like, nah, look, check your Bible. So this sounds shocking to most people who believe God will always keep Israel safe. Jesus had Daniel say it, and then Jesus says it also, Daniel 12:7. It shall be a time, times, and half a time when the power of the holy people, okay, times, and half a time is 3.5 years. I don't know why they say it that way, but you can find other scriptures that parallel this, and it turns out to be 1,260 days, 3.5 years, times, and half a time. So when the power of the holy people, and Worldwide used to teach this as the modern church, Worldwide Church of God, were the holy people. When Daniel wrote this, the holy people was the nation of Israel, right? So when the power of the holy people, the power of the military in Israel, which is pretty potent. So far, they've won every war that's ever come against them, right? And right now they've written it, that they will bring down the temple of humanity with their nuclear weapons if they are losing a war to keep control of Jerusalem, right? So it's in the interest of all the other countries, not to let that happen, certainly America, because you don't want a nuclear war all over the Middle East, because that would be very bad for a lot of people. Right? So the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, totally gone. Right? And other scriptures talk about Jerusalem will be trodden underfoot for 3.5 years by the Gentiles. Okay, that means no Jewish control of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, anything. That means no Israel, just like France. If you remember anything about World War II, Germany invaded France. Hitler marched under the Eiffel Tower, took total control of France. France didn't have a government anymore in the sense that they could call the shots. Hitler was calling the shots all over France, right? And that's how it'll be for Jerusalem and Israel for 3.5 years until the last great war when Jesus comes down, right? Luke 12:24. And this, it's just a simple little verse tucked into Luke here, and it says, they will fall by the edge of the sword. Bring that into modern language. They'll die in battle. Fall by the edge of the sword. You get killed in war. And led away captive into all nations. Prison camps. Right? And the Jews have this thinking and saying that they're never going back to prison camps again. Well, Jesus says different. Yes, you are. You will. And Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles has been fulfilled. So when this destruction of Israel happens, it will be a sure sign to anybody who knows their biblical prophecy, right? When Israel has been wiped off the map as a self-governing nation, there's 3.5 more years, right? So set your watches, set your alarms, right? Get your calendars out and start crossing off the days. Although, I'm not sure that you'll be living like you're living now. It'll be hard to say, right? So few preachers and teachers in the Christian world talk about the Israeli destruction war. They can't see it. They can't understand it. They don't grasp it. They don't lock in onto these scriptures and say, okay, there it is in the Bible. It's going to happen. God says it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So here are the words of Jesus in Luke 21, verse 20. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. Okay. And I used to, when I first started reading and studying, I took the word armies, plural, as, okay, not just one army. Here's an army, and then over there's another army, and then up over there's another army. And I'm thinking, I don't understand exactly how that works, right? Okay, compassed in the Greek can mean encircled or surrounded. Okay, so those of us, Gary's been to Jerusalem. Anybody else been to Jerusalem? Yeah. Okay, those of us who've been to Jerusalem, we've been near the Temple Mount. We may have been up on the Temple Mount. We look out around, we see Mount of Olives across the way, across the valley, right? And so to be anywhere on one of those mountains, Mount of Olives, on Mount Moriah, and to look out and to see armies. Okay, now the word armies there comes from the Greek word which means a camping ground for body of troops. Now, I set up a camp on Loch Lomond in Scotland. Well, in another life, in a life before this life, right? And the first a handful of trucks showed up, all loaded up with tents and equipment. And I'd mapped out, okay, we'll have the latrines here, and we'll have the girls' tents over here, and the boys' tents way over there, and the mess tent will be here. So the whole encampment doesn't come to fruition in one day. First you have the lead trucks and the unloading of the trucks and stuff. So this is saying, when you see troops and camping grounds begin to be set up around Jerusalem, right? Then know that Jerusalem's desolation, which can mean devastation, which can mean ruin, is near. So, if you happen to be there, I hope you're not there, although it's a guaranteed place of safety if you get up into the mountains. Doesn't say which mountain, right? Just get to a mountain. Get up there in the cave somewhere. Start living up there, away from all the trouble. So when the troops are camping around Jerusalem, we can know for sure that its ruin is near. Verse 21, let those who are in Judea, Israel, flee to the mountains, your nearest mountain, wherever you are, there's lots of mountains. Now flee to a mountain somewhere. Let those who are in the midst of her, Jerusalem, depart. Get out of Jerusalem. Don't be in Jerusalem. Verse 23, there will be great distress on the land and wrath upon this people. Verse 24, they will fall by the edge of the sword and they will be led away captive into all nations. Jerusalem will be trampled under by the Gentiles for the time of the Gentiles. So Revelation 11:2 shows that Jerusalem will be captured and overrun by the Gentiles for 3.5 years. It didn't say that back, in Luke, but now we're told in Revelation it's a 3.5 year period. Revelation 11:2. But leave out the court outside the temple. It has been given to the Gentiles, for they will tread the holy city, Jerusalem, underfoot for 42 months. Right? So that's the 3.5 years in the Hebrew calendar. When there is no Israel, there is no worship center of Jerusalem, other than you get to worship the beast, who I believe will claim to be Christ. There are enough scriptures that say, Jesus says, when they say the Christ is here or there, don't believe it. So, and 2 billion people right now are expecting the Christ to come to earth. And so when this person, the beast power, sets himself up in the holy place and shows that he is God, how do you show that you are God? Right? Well, calling down fire from heaven's one way, and he'll have other ways to show that he is God, and it's going to be pretty easy to trick 2 billion people into believing in a false Jesus, right? So people will accept it, right? So this battle for control of Jerusalem will cause the total destruction of Israel and its army and its Jewish way of life in Jerusalem. So forget morning and evening sacrifices, out of here. No more of that, right? So notice the flee to the mountains reference is parallel to the abomination day, right? In Matthew 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand what Daniel wrote, right? Go back to Daniel to do your basic study, right? Verse 16, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay, that's Luke said, flee to the mountains, right? Verse 21, for then will be great tribulation, such as not since the beginning of the world, nor to this time, nor never shall be. World War II, to my recollection, has been the worst time of trouble for the planet in general that we've ever had. It was going very badly there for quite a while. Okay, then there's coming this final, greatest, worst time of trouble ever for humans, which will be this tribulation period. So this destruction, desolation war becomes more clear when we focus on who wins the war. Revelation 13:4. Oh, let me jump back a second. In Luke said nothing about don't go down into your house, right? To take things out of your house. Matthew says that. He says, if you left your cloak across the way while you were out working in the field, don't go across the way to get your cloak, go back the other way to the mountains. So on the abomination day, you don't go in your house and pack a bag. In Luke's account, it's earlier. When they begin to set up the army encampments, he says nothing about go down in your house, pack a bag, and go to the mountains, because it's earlier, right? And if you're in Jerusalem when the morning and evening sacrifices start, pack a bag and get out of town, right? Lots of people will want to come to town to see the morning and the evening sacrifices. But when it starts, it's headed towards the day when it stops. On the day that it stops, you are not allowed, so says Jesus, to go into your house to pack a bag. You got to get out of town within the next hour and a half or you're in trouble. So, Revelation 13:4, they worship the beast, saying, who is able to make war with him? Because he's essentially capturing all of planet Earth, right? There's the fifth trumpet, then the sixth trumpet, where he has an army that kills a third of mankind. So who can make war with an army that can kill a third of mankind? Verse 5, it was given him to continue 42 months, 3.5 years. Verse 6, he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God. So if you know your Bible and you understand what blasphemy against God is, you'll be able to look at this Hitler-like beast person, proclaiming that he's God, but speaking blasphemy against God, right? Verse 7, it was granted to him to make war with the saints. And interestingly, for a long time I've read saints as saints. Anybody know what the Greek behind saints is? Stretching back there. It's holy ones. So, holy ones includes the Father, the Son, all the holy angels. It includes the holy people of Israel, God's holy people, right? And it, of course, includes the New Testament holy people, baptized church members, right? So you have to ask yourself, he makes war with, right? Now, it probably means both. Probably means modern church members who won't accept the mark of the beast, so he's making war against them. But he also, in Luke, he makes war with the nation of Israel, the holy people. So it can be inclusive in both, right? So he overcomes them and has authority given to him over every tribe and tongue and nation. This is a one world ruling government, which people have been crying out for a long time, right? In the hope that when there's one government, it won't go to war against itself. So there'll be no more wars, right? And maybe God is saying, you people want one world ruling government? All right, we're going to have a one world ruling government, but you ain't going to like it, right? Yeah, learn the lesson. So the beast person is the king of the north, number 3, that is mentioned in Daniel 11:21, also known as the abominable desolator person. When you read abomination of desolation, it's the Sunday keeping people's way of translating some of the words in the Hebrew and in the Greek. But he's an abominable person, right? We know that. Hitler was an abominable person. This person's going to be an abominable person. He's a desolator person. He's the one who causes the war against Israel to destroy Israel. So he's a desolator. So he's the abominable desolator person. Daniel 11:31. His forces, mustered by him, shall take away the daily sacrifices, and place the abomination of desolation, him, the abominable desolator, in place of. Right? So he'll say, hey, we don't need the Old Testament morning and evening sacrifices. What we need is me, Jesus Christ, telling you all how to do things. Right? On the same day. When that day happens and you hear about it on your cell phone, you hear about it on your earbud radios, jogging, or you see it on a TV set, or however you learn about it, the clock has started to tick. You have about an hour and a half to get out of town. Don't go back into your house and pack a bag, which is going to be the first thing you think about. It's like, ooh, I've got to go to the mountains. I'm going to need my sleeping bag. I'm going to need my cooler. I'm going to need mosquito repellent. No, don't go into your house. It's too late. You left it too late, right? So, Daniel 12:1 shows that from the sacrifices ending until Christ's appearance is 1,290 days. Right? Daniel 12:11. From the time of the daily sacrifices taken away and the abomination of desolation set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Now, do the math, right? School teacher here will help us if we get haywire, right? That's 3.5 years, that's 1,260 days, plus an extra 30 days to make 1,290 days. And essentially, from the abomination day for the next 30 days is when the war to capture and ruin, to destroy the Israeli military and the Israeli government takes about 30 days. Because they are fierce, mighty warriors. The young teenage girls and teenage guys, before they grow to be 20 years of age, they've been to military camp. They are trained. They have weapons in their closets at home. They have, when the air raid sirens sound, they have 17 seconds. Just run that on your little stopwatch. They have 17 seconds from the time they hear the air raid sirens to get into an air raid shelter. And almost all the places have a nearby air raid shelter. It's like, anybody here know where your nearest air raid shelter is? We don't have any, right? Now for tornadoes coming, you go in downstairs, no windows, all that stuff. Put a mattress over your head and sit in the bathtub, right? Or whatever you can come up with in a hurry, right? So, anyhow, so Daniel 12:7, the man swore by him who lives forever that it shall be a time and half a time when the power of the holy people, Israel, is completely shattered, and these things shall be finished, right? So from the total destruction, the end of the war in that 30-day period, right, then comes an official 3.5-year period, right, which ends with the return of Jesus Christ. So when the morning and evening sacrifices begin, prophecy tells us that Israel is soon to be destroyed. Now, what are most Americans going to think? Most Baptist Americans, most those people who love Jerusalem, right? They want to go and visit Jerusalem, right? So what are they going to think when they're told officially that every morning and every evening up on the Temple Mount or nearby is this official Old Testament procedure of the morning sacrifice and then the evening sacrifice? You can hear the engines all revving up out there on the runways that carry people to Jerusalem to see this most holy thing. Only it's not holy anymore. Jesus became the final sacrifice, right? The other earlier sacrifices were pointing to the day when Jesus would become the final sacrifice. But people will want to go and see it, and all these scriptures are saying, if you're one of those people and you happen to be in Israel on the day that they stop the morning and evening sacrifices, don't get on your aeroplane and fly home. You don't have time. Get into the mountains, right? So before the destruction war begins, troops will be seen setting up campgrounds around the city. And like I said, Luke doesn't say anything about you can't go down into your house, right? Then comes the last day for fleeing, which is Matthew 24, 15, 16, and 17. Don't go down into your house to take anything out of your house. Let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes, right? Which can only make sense if the mountain is back this way and your cloak is back that way and you're in the middle of the field. It's like, well, wait a minute. How long is it going to take me to sprint across the field, grab my cloak, which I'm going to need in the mountain, right? And then sprint back here and up to the mountains. It's like, we're just talking like 10 minutes, most, less, right? So, unless it's muddy. It might be a muddy field and, you might be slow going there. Anyhow, so Jesus nails this. He says, when you hear about this, it's almost too late. You have got to get out of Jerusalem. You have got to get out of the cities and the towns of Israel, and you've got to go find yourself a cave or something in the mountains where they're not going to come and bother you. So, will most people know where they are in Bible prophecy when these things are happening? They need to. It's in the Bible. God is giving it to them. But it's like, well, I just want to die and go to heaven. Or when the rapture occurs, right, which doesn't exist, and you can prove it for the rapture scripture proves that there is no rapture. Go figure, right? But anyhow, so it will be a life or death moment similar to those who escaped Germany in the early days of Hitler's reign. There were Jews in Jerusalem, in Germany, who could read the writing on the wall. They could see where Hitler was going with all of this. And they found ways to get out of Germany and to other countries around the world before Hitler locked it down and started shipping Jews off to the prison camps. So a major Bible prophecy moment will be the commencement of the morning and evening sacrifices. Those who have studied Revelation and Daniel will know the Israel gets destroyed war is about